There is a particular kind of cruelty in a cancellation that arrives after the writer's room has finished, after pre production has begun, and after a creative team has spent months building something that they believed they had been given permission to build. And that is exactly what just happened to Stargate. Today, I want to talk about why that matters, even if you've never watched a single episode. The Stargate revival, created and showrun by franchise veteran Martin Guro, received a series order from Prime Video in November 2025. It completed a 20-week writer's room, entered pre-production in the UK, casting was underway, and filming was scheduled to begin in the fall. And then, with seemingly no warning to the creative team and no opportunity for revision, Amazon MGM Studios canceled it. To understand why this feels like such a betrayal, not just to the people who worked on the show, but to an entire community of fans who have been waiting patiently for over a decade, you need to understand what Stargate has meant and what it has already survived. The franchise began modestly. Roland Emmerich's 1994 film was, by his later standards, a small sci fi picture, an adventure set almost entirely on a single alien world, a sense of childlike wonder that distinguished it from the bombastic blockbusters that Emmerich himself would go on to make. Co writer Dean Devlin has described struggling to win over skeptical sci fi fans at conventions, until fans discovered that the filmmakers had recreated an ancient Egyptian language for the film's mythology. At that point, Devlin said, fans recognized something genuine. They are one of us. They would go to that extra length for sci fi. That willingness became the franchise's defining quality across 17 seasons of television. Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe, all built under showrunner Brad Wright into a mythology of extraordinary depth. The dynamic between protagonists Jack O'Neill and Daniel Jackson from the original film became the core of one of sci fi television's most beloved ensemble casts. And then, in 2011, it abruptly ended. Not with resolution, not with the conclusion that the story had been building toward across nearly 2 decades. Stargate Universe, the show that had been expected to carry on the legacy of its predecessors, was abruptly canceled after only 2 seasons. The franchise's narrative simply stopped. An open thread that fans have carried for 15 years. Through a prequel 2018 web series that offered only a brief continuation, through false starts and rumors and the slow accumulation of hope that someone eventually would finish the story. Martin Garo, who had worked on all 3 previous Stargate series, was that someone. His revival was greenlit by Amazon's head of television, Peter Friedlander, in one of Friedlander's first acts after joining the company in October 2025. Brad Wright himself was attached as a consulting producer, and the writers explicitly designed the series as an accessible entry point for newcomers, a genuine continuation to eventually lead to a real ending for everyone. What changed wasn't the show, it was the people evaluating it. The 2 executives who had developed Stargate with Garo and championed it within the company both departed in the months following the arrival of Blair Fetter, Amazon's new head of world building and genre series, who joined in February 2026 and restructured the team beneath him. By June, the project Friedlander himself had greenlit was dead. Not retooled, not given notes, canceled outright. Late enough in the process that a creative team had already built something real before being told it would never be seen. The reported justification was that the show would not have broad appeal beyond the franchise's already dedicated fan base. So let's talk about why that argument is wrong. A dedicated multi-decade fan base with deep mythology and recognizable branding isn't a liability. It's the foundation that most new properties spend years and tens of millions of dollars trying to build from nothing. You don't grow a franchise by treating the people who kept it alive as an obstacle to be worked around. You start with them. Tell a genuinely good story and let the passion radiate outward, which is precisely what the writers always said they designed this revival to do. And here's what happened in the weeks since. The Save Stargate petition has gathered nearly 80,000 signatures and counting. Gateworld, the preeminent Stargate fan site, has organized a coordinated campaign. Letters, emails, and calls directed specifically to Peter Friedlander, the executive who greenlit the project in the first place. There's a hashtag, a website, an international tweet storm, and, in a detail that captures the specific, slightly absurd, entirely earnest energy of genuine fandom, a GoFundMe that has already raised enough money to fly a Save Stargate banner over Amazon's Los Angeles headquarters, with funds left over for more. History suggests that campaigns like this rarely succeed, but history isn't quite unanimous on that. The original Star Trek was saved by a letter writing campaign in the late 1960s that earned it a third season it would not otherwise have received. A season that, decades later, helped fuel the syndication success that made the entire franchise possible. More recently, the release the Snyder Cut campaign proved sustained, organized fan pressure can move even the largest media companies. The momentum behind Save Stargate is genuine, it's specific, and it's happening at a moment when this decision could still be reversed. Production hadn't begun, but it was about to, which means the will and the resources to make this show still exist within the company that canceled it. If you've ever loved a piece of art that mattered to you more than it seemed to matter than the people who controlled it, if you've ever felt the helplessness of watching something you cared about get treated as disposable by people who never understood why it mattered, this is the moment to do something about it. Sign the petition, send an email, use the Save Stargate hashtag. You may never have watched a single episode of Stargate, but the principle here is bigger than one franchise, and the people fighting for it deserve support, because the next disposable property might be one that you love. I'll put the petition link and the Save Stargate website in the description below, so let me know in the comments. Are you a Stargate fan? And have you signed the petition? Don't forget to subscribe to Fandom Frontline for more coverage of the stories that shape our fandom, and of course, hashtag Save Stargate.